a shortcut chicken pot pie. So I have your usual suspects here. Carrots, celery, and onion going into some melted butter, or you can use olive oil, with lots of fresh thyme. And I add leeks to my mixture as well. So leeks, carrots, celery, and onion, a nice handful of fresh picked thyme, all go into the skillet. And really all we're doing here is cooking out the vegetable. The chicken's fully cooked, right? So we're going to get the juices out of the veg by adding salt and pepper. Salt draws the liquid out of all things. And you can adjust this. You can add peas, you can add mushrooms. This is just the basic building blocks that I always use as my go-to. We're gonna add a little sprinkle of pepper, or white pepper, or a combination of both. I rarely make anything without garlic. My husband and I both love garlic, so I'm gonna add a little garlic. But that's gilding the lily. This is a delicious mixture as it is. Now the real time saver here, and calorie saver, is I only make single crust for my pies. And I cook the pastry, the puff pastry in this case, I cook it separately so it gets crispy on the bottom and the top, and it can cook while this mixture's cooking. And I use Do4 puff pastry. I'm sure there are other brands. It's the only one I ever see it in the market. But heads up, when you're using frozen puff pastry, it has to sit in the refrigerator for 2 hours to defrost, or you could pop it in there overnight. But it's not something you take straight from the freezer and throw on the counter. You're going to just barely wake it up out of the package. I lightly floured the counter and your hands in the pan, and then just give it a little roll. Now here's how I do this. If you're going to serve out of a round vessel like this, you can put this down and cut around the shape of what you're going to be serving from. If you're going to make a dish, a giant casserole of chicken pot pie, like this, what I do is, and that's a traditional 9x13 shape there, what I do is I cut the sheet into 6 portions. And then you can use a little pie cutter to put a shape like an autumn leaf or a heart or a star in the center of each of these. Or you could just make a little cross with the tip of your paring knife. So now when you serve this, you'll have a topping for the entire casserole, but it's also already pre-portioned. So everybody can take a piece of that puff pastry crust without disturbing. You know, it won't all sink down into the filling underneath. So we're gonna cook these separate on parchment lined baking sheet at 425 until they're golden and puffed. This is just egg wash, of course, splash of water with an egg. Brush it and pop it in the oven. To our vegetables and bay leaf and thyme, I added about 3 tablespoons of flour over the break. I've been stirring that around so the flour is cooking out a bit. We're now going to add our star ingredient, the Guinness Blonde. Of course, any lager or golden beer will work. The reason we work with any spirits is to add acidity and depth of flavor. I'm gonna add bone broth or chicken stock to make this nice and saucy. Okay, let that thicken up a hair. And then my secret ingredient is a fat squirt of Dijon mustard, which is delicious in this filling. A little fresh grated nutmeg. And of course the chicken. This is just rotisserie chicken. I was in the middle of cutting the last piece of breast. You can just pull it if you want long, thin strands. Or you can dice it if you want a chunkier pie filling. White and dark meat combined. Into the hot tub. Our fat squirt of Dijon. Once around the pan. Stir this combo together. And now this is delicious as is. I like to gild the lily a little bit, and I finish mine with creme fraiche or a couple of turns of the pan of heavy cream. We just pour this right into our casserole. It's a fake-out chicken pot pie. And then, instead of 2 crusts, I arrange the 6 portions of our puff pastry right up on top, which is, right? It's cool, right? And then people can serve themselves and they get their own top, and it's crispy on both sides.